The Machine Learning Toolbox, Libraries, Math and Environment Setup. Imagine you have a beautifully designed blueprint for a house, but no bricks, no mortar, and no tools to actually lay the foundation. In the world of machine learning, algorithms are that blueprint. They are the mathematical ideas. But to actually build something that can predict a stock price, recognize a face, or drive a car, you need the tools of the trade. You need the software libraries, the data frameworks, and a solid mathematical foundation to know if your building is structurally sound. In the next 20 minutes, we are going to look under the hood of machine learning development. We will unpack the exact mathematical and statistical prerequisites you need before you write a single line of code. Then we'll map out the powerhouse ecosystem of Python libraries: NumPy, pandas, matplotlib, Seaborn, and scikit-learn, explaining exactly what role each plays. Finally, we'll walk through how to set up your environment using Anaconda and Jupyter Notebooks so you can start building models yourself. No advanced programming background needed. Let's get into it. The mathematical foundation, descriptive statistics. Machine learning is often described as a branch of computer science, but at its absolute core, it is applied mathematics. If you want to understand how a model sees your data, you have to start with descriptive statistics. This is the art of summarizing and organizing a massive pile of messy numbers so that human beings and algorithms can make sense of them. Before a model can learn, we have to look at the shape of our data. We look at central tendency, which tells us where the middle of our data lies. We look at percentiles to see how the data is distributed across different thresholds. Most importantly, we look at variance and standard deviation, which measure how spread out or scattered our data points are from that middle point. If your data is tightly packed, your model faces a different challenge than if your data is wild and highly volatile. We also need to understand how different variables move together, whether a change in one feature pushes another feature up or pulls it down. By mastering these basics, you gain the vocabulary needed to clean your data and judge whether your machine learning models are actually accurate. Interconnecting values, covariance, and correlation. Narration. Data rarely exists in a vacuum. In machine learning, we are almost always trying to use one piece of information to predict another. To do that, we have to understand how variables relate to one another numerically. This is where covariance and correlation come into play. Covariance tells us the direction of the relationship between two variables. If they both tend to grow together, the covariance is positive. If one grows while the other shrinks, it's negative. But covariance can be hard to interpret because it depends entirely on the scale of your metrics. That's why we rely heavily on correlation, which takes that relationship and scales it to a strict boundary between -1 and +1. A value near 1 means a near-perfect lockstep relationship. Understanding this relationship allows data scientists to perform exploratory data analysis, or EDA. By visualizing these patterns up front using graphical tools, we can strip out redundant features and hand our machine learning models only the cleanest, most impactful information. Inferential statistics, sampling, and generalization. When we build a machine learning model, we almost never have access to all the data that will ever exist in the universe. If you are building a model to detect credit card fraud, you cannot train it on every transaction that will happen over the next 10 years. Instead, you have to work with a subset of data, a sample. Moving from what we see in a limited sample to making accurate predictions about the wider world is the core engine of inferential statistics. Inferential statistics is the formal process of drawing conclusions about a whole population based on a smaller piece of sample data. In essence, it is the science of generalization. Many of our classic machine learning models are, at their heart, formalized inference procedures. When an algorithm performs a linear regression to predict housing prices, or uses a decision tree to classify whether a medical patient is healthy or sick, it is taking a historical sample, discovering an underlying pattern, and inferring that this same pattern will hold true for the next patient who walks through the door. Neural networks and deep learning. While traditional statistical models excel at structured data, like spreadsheets and financial tables, humanity started generating data that was far more massive and unstructured. Think high-resolution video streams, raw audio recordings, and vast webs of text documents. To tackle data at this massive scale, researchers designed computational architectures loosely inspired by the human brain, artificial neural networks. A neural network consists of layers of tiny computational units called neurons. Data enters through an input layer, passes through one or more hidden layers where the complex features are extracted, and emerges at the output layer with an answer. The connections between these neurons act like volume knobs. We call them weights. As data flows through the network, each neuron evaluates the incoming signals. If the total signal clears a specific threshold, the neuron fires, passing its information forward. By looking at thousands or millions of examples, the network slowly turns these internal knobs, adjusting its weights until its predictions match reality. When we stack many of these hidden layers together, we enter the domain of deep learning, a technology capable of discovering incredibly rich patterns completely on its own, without a human engineer needing to write specific rules. The Python ecosystem and Anaconda setups. Now that we have the mathematical framework in mind, how do we actually bring these models to life? The undisputed capital of the machine learning world is the Python programming language. Python's syntax is clean, expressive, and remarkably easy to read, allowing engineers and scientists to focus on solving data problems rather than wrestling with overly complex code syntax. But raw Python by itself doesn't contain machine learning algorithms. For that, we rely on a highly specialized ecosystem of open-source libraries. To make installing these tools painless, data scientists use the Anaconda distribution. Think of Anaconda as a pre-packaged digital laboratory. It is a completely free distribution that comes with its own command line manager called Conda, a desktop interface called Anaconda Navigator, and over 250 data science packages pre-configured to work together flawlessly right out of the box. It strips away the headache of software compatibility, so you can start coding instantly. Jupyter Notebook, the interactive workbench. Once you have Anaconda installed, your primary workspace will almost certainly be a tool called the Jupyter Notebook. Traditional programming languages require you to write a massive script, compile it, run the entire thing, and pray that there isn't an error on line 40. Jupyter completely reimagines this process for data science. A Jupyter Notebook is an interactive web interface that creates a live document. Inside this document, you can mix executable blocks of code, raw equations, interactive data charts, and plain narrative text all in one place. It operates on a concept called cell-based execution. You can write 3 lines of code to load your data into a single cell, run just that cell, and view the data table immediately underneath it. If it looks correct, you move to the next cell to build your model. This makes data cleaning, statistical modeling, and experimental machine learning incredibly fast and intuitive. It acts as an open laboratory notebook where your thoughts, your code, and your visual results live side by side. NumPy and pandas, data storage and manipulation. With your notebook open, the first step in any machine learning pipeline is loading and preparing your data. This is where the twin titans of the Python data ecosystem come in, NumPy and pandas. NumPy, short for numerical Python, is the foundational engine that sits beneath almost every single data science tool in existence. It provides a highly optimized interface for storing and operating on massive, dense blocks of numbers, known as arrays or matrices. While standard Python can store lists of items, it becomes sluggish when dealing with millions of records. NumPy arrays are built in raw C under the hood, making data operations blazing fast as your datasets scale. Sitting directly on top of NumPy is pandas. If NumPy is the engine, pandas is the dashboard. It takes those raw numerical arrays and wraps them into a flexible, highly expressive structure called a data frame, which looks and behaves exactly like an incredibly powerful, programmable Excel spreadsheet. Pandas is your primary tool for data cleaning, allowing you to easily handle missing values, filter rows, merge different datasets, and transform your raw inputs into the clean matrices that machine learning models require. Visualization, Matplotlib and Seaborn. Raw tables of numbers are fine for machines, but humans need images to spot trends, outliers, and hidden anomalies. To truly understand our data before we train a model, we turn to visualization, powered by Matplotlib and Seaborn. Matplotlib is the bedrock visualization library in Python. Created over 2 decades ago to mimic the robust plotting styles of MATLAB, it is a highly customizable, multi-platform powerhouse. If you want to control the exact position of a line, the specific hue of a tick mark, or the layout of an advanced grid, Matplotlib gives you the raw engineering controls to do it. However, because Matplotlib requires a lot of manual configuration to look modern, developers built a gorgeous library right on top of it called Seaborn. Seaborn is designed to interact natively with pandas' data frames. Instead of writing 10 lines of code to style a chart, Seaborn allows you to generate stunning, statistically rich plots, like distribution curves, heat maps, and linear regression trends, with a single line of code. It simplifies exploratory data analysis, making it effortless to see how your features interact visually before you hand them off to a machine learning algorithm. Scikit-learn, the algorithm once your data is cleaned by pandas, structured by NumPy, and explored via Seaborn, you are finally ready to build your machine learning model. For 90% of classic machine learning applications, you will use a single library to do this, Scikit-learn. Built on top of the broader Python scientific computing stack, Scikit-learn is widely considered one of the best designed software libraries in the history of computer science. It provides clean, highly efficient implementations of a massive array of machine learning algorithms, ranging from linear regressions and support vector machines to complex random forests and clustering tools. The true magic of Scikit-learn is its absolute uniformity. The creators designed a standardized application programming interface, or API. This means that regardless of whether you are training a simple linear trend or a highly complex ensemble classifier, the core commands remain identical. You initialize the model, you use the fit command to let it learn from your training data, and you use the predict command to generate answers on new data. Once you learn the basic syntax for one algorithm, you instantly know how to use every single model inside the library. Alternative frameworks and the big picture. While the combination of Scikit-learn and Anaconda represents the gold standard for mainstream machine learning, the field is vast, and different specialized tasks sometimes require different tools. If you step outside of traditional tabular data and want to build massive deep learning models for things like advanced computer vision or generative language processing, you will likely move from scikit-learn to frameworks like Google's TensorFlow or Meta's PyTorch, which are uniquely built to handle complex neural networks across massive clusters of specialized hardware graphics cards. If your work focuses primarily on pure statistical mining and academic research, you might find yourself using the R programming language. If you are handling petabytes of data distributed across thousands of server farms, you'll see frameworks like Apache Hadoop. And if you are working in enterprise business analytics, you will often use visualization engines like Tableau or automated cloud suites like Microsoft Azure Machine Learning to run models without writing code from scratch. No matter which software package or language you encounter in your career, remember this: the underlying math, the core concepts of sampling, data distributions, and feature relationships remain exactly the same. The libraries are simply different tools designed to bring those exact same mathematical principles to life. Recap. So let's review the whole toolkit in one breath. To build machine learning models that work, you must start with the foundational rules of mathematics, using descriptive statistics to measure the shape of your data, covariance and correlation to track how variables interact, and inferential statistics to ensure your model generalizes accurately from a small sample to the real world. To turn those ideas into actual software, you set up an environment using Anaconda distribution, open up an interactive workbench using a Jupyter Notebook, store your matrices in optimized NumPy arrays, manipulate your datasets inside pandas data frames, map out trends using Matplotlib and Seaborn, and train your predictive models using the streamlined syntax of scikit-learn. You now have a complete, clear mental map of the entire data science toolkit. In our next episodes, we're going to dive deep into each of these libraries, one by one, opening up Jupyter Notebooks and writing code together line by line. If this breakdown gave you a clearer understanding of how the software and the math fit together, make sure to hit subscribe so you don't miss the hands-on tutorials coming up next. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.